Hi, I'm Nino Gonzalez, and welcome to another episode of Making Sense. Well, in today's show, I would like to take a moment and discuss about job searching techniques, especially when you're scheduling for the interview and what you might expect, and what best to cover this with an individual who's been going through this. And we've got John Summerford back, and as a recent UTEP graduate and a past EPCC student, and as I understand, you've been going through quite a bit of interviews and testing processes and all of this. Tell us a little bit about it, and what is it that we can expect? Like, let's talk about the type of interviews that you've had. I think they've ranged from face-to-face to phone, right?
Yes, I've dealt with a lot of interviews lately, Nino. I'm actually out there, getting my name out there. I'm dealing a lot with phone interviews first, because they always tend to want to get that human interaction with you first.
Right.
You know, how do you sound? How do you communicate? Do you communicate well? You know, they want to get to know you before they even see you. And then after that, when you they think that you're actually probably a good person that actually for a one-on-one interview. What I've been dealing with a lot lately is that they're actually having 2 to 3 people at a time doing these what they call mass interviews, I believe.
Right.
And you'll sit there and, you know, of course you're going to get nervous because you got 3 people asking you questions.
Sure.
And you're not just having that discussion like you and me are having right now. You're actually like trying to answer every individual's individual questions.
And those are happening one-on-one or in a face-to-face setting,
Yeah,
right?
in a face-to-face setting.
Okay.
Yeah, so you got to be there and trying to maintain your focus, not lose your nerve, trying to concentrate on everything that I'm hoping that most people do, is research the company before you even contact them, learn what they're about, you know, and having these mass interviews will get you nervous, and it'll completely throw you off.
Especially, you know, researching the company, knowing how, especially if it's a national or an international company, that they might have a branch or a division located here. At least know how long they've been in El Paso. What is the clientele that they serve? What are the services or products that they manufacture or provide? Knowing as much as you can, and even if you can even get some goals that they might have for the future, that shows them that you're interested in the company.
Yeah, goal setting is a real big thing with companies nowadays. There's even a system that actually measures if you can actually achieve a goal with certain companies, and they call it the SMART method, because it's actually an abbreviation. Basically, they want to look at like your goal setting. Is it measurable?
Right.
Is it realistic? Is it achievable?
Right.
You know, do you have a time frame for these goals? They want to know about all this stuff. And during the discussion of goal setting, you know, they're going to ask you about this, and they're going to want to hear more numbers than anything. They want to know numbers.
And one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this topic is because I see a lot of students that are graduating with their degrees, either their associate's degree or their bachelor's degree, and just because you have a degree does not mean you're going to get a job.
No, it does not guarantee
And
anything.
it is really hard to land a job, and you've got to know how to market yourself, and you got to know the ins and outs of interviewing and all these different things that you're going to have to go through. And one of the things that brought this to light and is because I was contacted by a leading tax software manufacturer. Won't mention any names, but they contacted me, and they asked me if I wanted to apply as a credential tax expert during tax season. And I would get to pick and choose my own hours or whatever. And I said, okay, I'll give it a try. So it started with a phone interview. And you know, I haven't interviewed for anything in a while, and so it was sort of interesting. You know, they contacted me out of the blue. I wasn't expecting when they were going to contact me, but the number didn't look familiar, and it looked like it was from out of town. It did look like it was from out of town, so I got into character right away, and sure enough, it was an individual from the software manufacturing company, and they asked me a little bit about myself, trying to get a feel. And they asked me if I spoke Spanish, and right away, the guy started talking to me in Spanish and seeing if I could also converse in Spanish, because they were especially interested in looking at bilingual credentialed tax experts for the tax season. So I passed that. And then, I guess what you've also gone through is testing.
Yes.
I did the same thing, went through testing.
Yes, the personality tests,
Okay.
usually consisting of, and I'm sure anybody who's ever had a job has gone through these tests. They always have agree, disagree, strongly agree, or strongly disagree,
Right.
or neutral. So everybody's going to be going
Right.
through those.
And that's something that's now being very commonly done by a lot of companies, is these personality tests to see if they can see if you're going to be dishonest. You don't have any, you have lack of integrity, inability to control anger, or inability
Maybe
to
control stress.
Stress, yeah, those are the big ones. So those are some of the key things that they ask you, and you've gone through one of these, right? And they're
Well, I've gone
long,
through many of them, many of them.
and they're long, right?
Oh, yeah, they are very time consuming. And one thing I will point out is a lot of times you're going to come across that same question over and over again.
That
And you're
reworded differently.
And the thing is, there's a point to that. They're actually looking for consistency in your answers.
See if you answered, one way in one question, but the same question reworded, or in another situation another
Exactly.
way. See if you changed your answer, correct?
Exactly.
Right. Like I've got some examples here. Like they say employees who leave work early without permission are stealing. So how would you answer that? Would you strongly agree? Would you, are you neutral? Are you partially disagree? Maybe agree. So these are things that are questioning your honesty and integrity. Very few people steal at work. Those are the type of questions. Most people have never shoplifted as teenagers. So, how would you answer that? Nothing is wrong with taking home supplies from work now and then. So that's what they're looking at, and a lot of individuals, if they can't pass these exams, they don't get to the next level. It's a part of weeding out.
Yeah.
Regardless of
It's a
how
filtration system.
regardless of how your resume looks. And I don't think a lot of college students or graduates, I don't think they're educating their students about what is it that they need to know to land a job. Here's some for controlling anger. I cannot remember the last time I lost my temper at work. I have almost never become angry at work. Sometimes my coworkers annoy me. Computer hackers are punished too harshly, or I have always had the perfect job. Those are questions that relate to controlling anger, and they're trying to see how you would answer that.
Exactly.
What were some of the questions that you saw on your test?
A lot of the stealing from work thing,
Right.
time stealing, office supplies. I'd be seeing a lot of those questions. And obviously you have to look at it from the company's perspective of, would you actually hire a person that's going to take office supplies that have costed you money?
Right.
So obviously you're not going to...
Regardless of the dollar amount, correct? Whether
Exactly.
it's a paper clip, whether it's a pen, or
a
whatever.
penny or a dollar is still money
Right.
in the eyes of the company.
Right. Another question that I've seen is that if you were to find, a $20 bill laying around, would you just pick it up, or would you turn it into security? Things like that.
Which is
if
about your
nobody
honesty.
was seen.
Exactly. See, you're going to be dealing with a lot of questions like that. So you have to really take a moral high point when you're dealing with these kind of questions.
Right. And look at these that with the ability to cope with stress. I rarely worry about how well I'm doing at my job. I have confidence in my ability to handle my work responsibilities. I never get upset if my work is criticized by my manager, or work is the most stressful thing in life. Sometimes I don't feel able to handle all my work responsibilities, or I have never been tired at work. I have never arrived at work late. So some of these, as you're looking through them, and if you've never heard of these tests, they can stress you out, because I think a lot of these tests take about at least 25
Yeah,
30 minutes. I've heard one student that went through it and took her about 45 minutes to get through it. And usually you do it on your computer. They just provide you a link and you go on there and you take this exam.
Yeah. I mean,
And you never know the results. I
yeah,
think
you're never going to find out the results.
I think you know the results if you get a call.
Exactly.
That means you passed the test. Because if you don't get a call, then that means you couldn't get through that personality test. And I think a lot of us, especially like myself, who I've been here at the college for a while, you know, this is fairly new. And so it was interesting when I went through this process of with this software company, being a credential tax expert, but my test was different. My test is they sent me a link, and it was a set of 30 tax questions that maybe people might be calling in that are using the software that I might be able to help them out with. And, you know, I was thinking these were going to be like simple tax questions. And, you know, some dealt with farming, some dealt with if you get international wages and things like that, things that I'm not exposed to on an everyday basis.
See, stuff like that, they're looking for how passionate you are
No,
about
but
this.
they're also looking if you can research, because you know, they did allow you to use whatever you
Resources.
wanted, okay, resources you want, because if you don't know the answer, and they were very specific, if you don't know the answer, do you have the ability to research it and get the answer and provide the client that is calling you the appropriate guidance? So I think that's what they were looking for. So I guess not only that, it was 30 questions, tax questions. Then 30 questions on just grammar. You know, like what would you use? Would you use its or its? You know, ITS or IT apostrophe S?
And
Would
the
you
age-old
use
argument of
yours
your,
or
and-
yours? You know, and they would have sentences. Is this a complete thought? Is this an incomplete thought? Is this understandable or is it not understandable? So I had to go through a grammar test as well.
See, so all those students out there who are wondering why they take an English class,
Right.
trust me, it's important.
Right, and so, you know, the most common is yours and
Your,
you are,
your.
you know. A lot of people get that mistaken. It's and it is. You know, those are common things that we always are there, and a lot or a lot.
Yep.
Is it one word? Is it two words?
Oh, and don't forget maybe and maybe.
Yes, and two. TOO. So, anyways, we will continue with more of these things that we have experienced in trying to land a job, and hopefully giving this information to the community and to our students so they can be better prepared to land that first job. We'll be back, so stay tuned. Welcome to the second half of Making Sense, and I was here discussing with John about the different things that employers are looking for and the different testing methods that they use to see if you're going to be a qualified candidate. Now, as in the first half, I was mentioning that I went through a grammar test, and you said that with one of your companies that you applied, they also did a grammar test with you, correct?
Yes, they were very big on it. And the reason they do this is because a lot of these companies, you're going to have to be doing a lot of reports for
Right.
them and stuff like that. So any inaccuracy could throw them off big time and cost the company money in large
And make them
ways.
look bad.
Exactly.
Right.
So that's why they're doing this. So make sure you're up to date in your grammar, refresh yourself. If you have to take a refresher course somehow, even going on, say, a Purdue OWL like most students do.
Right.
And just, keep up with it.
And you know, there's so many free tools out there. There's like even Grammarly where you can write stuff and put it up there, and it will analyze it for you and tell you what is it that you did wrong and what is it that you did right and how you can improve it. So many things out there that are free and that we can use. But also another thing, that's one of the things that I hear from employers is communication skills. Is nowadays, how many times have you gone to a restaurant or even let's say a bar, right? And you see, maybe 3 or 4 friends sitting there, and what are they doing?
They're laughing, they're
No,
giggling.
you think they are? Usually I see them on their cell phone, each of them, and they're not even
Texting.
talking to each other.
Yes, they're OMG.
They're not talking to each
TTY.
other. Even couples, at dinner, they're not talking to each other, and each of them are on their phone, and that's one of the things that has sort of, I hope it will never become extinct, but the social interaction.
Yeah.
It's not there
mean,
because we're so
basic-
used to communicating. Even, hey, if you're gonna break up with somebody, do it through a text. Come on.
Because everybody's about convenience nowadays.
Right.
See, the thing is, with the new technology that's coming out, we're losing a lot of the etiquette of social interaction. And that's what these companies want, because customers want social interaction.
Right.
When you call a company, you feel more comfortable talking to somebody than actually trying to go through one of those automated machines.
Sure.
Don't you?
Right.
So that's what these people are looking for.
And even even when I got out of school, I did more writing than accounting because I had to write proposals, reports, discrepancies, emails, letters to clients, and especially emails. If and you have a misspelling in that email and you can't abbreviate like you do in a text message, how is that going to make you and the company that you represent look?
Pretty bad.
And a lot of us have lost that, especially with the younger people that are so used to texting and all these
Emojis
abbreviations,
and all
right?
that stuff.
And
abbreviations.
imagine putting an emoji to a client.
Yeah, and to be honest, I've actually even seen it done in actual certain job ads.
Right.
Where they're like, sorry, not sorry, stuff like that. And that actually makes the company look bad to when they're trying to reach out to employees.
Correct.
When they're trying to reach potential talent, the talent's gonna be like, wow, they really don't take themselves seriously here. Why would I really consider even applying?
Yeah, and so, that's one of the things that has really hurt is the social interaction, and that's one of the things that that they test on extroversion, and let's go through some of those questions to see, whether you're an introvert or extrovert. I'm usually described as an outgoing person. Almost none of my friends are quiet and reserved. I almost never feel bored at parties. It's easy for people to see my moods. I avoid being the center of attention wherever possible. I don't enjoy chatting with strangers. I sometimes try to avoid meeting new people. I am happy to see people, whatever the circumstances. I have never felt alone. I always tell people exactly what I think. So, this is really focusing on those social skills and how do you feel about yourself and the interactions with other individuals.
See, and if you notice that all of them were kind of revolving around extroversion.
Right.
Because a lot of companies, they want a person who's not afraid to talk to clientele
Sure.
and talk to their team members.
Right.
Because introverts, it's fine to be an introvert, but professionally, you have to be make yourself a bit of an extrovert.
And let's talk a little bit about, what I've gone through so far is after I guess I passed the exam because then I got an email, and now they don't even call you, they email you. It's like, well, we'd like to do a role play interview. Role play. So what it would be is they would be calling in, and they did, and it was like it was a client that I was actually going to be viewing their tax return. They were going to be sharing their tax return with me on the computer, and trying to see if I could answer the question in both English and in Spanish. So the interviewer was pretending to be a client, using that tax software, and I had to, be on camera. They gave me a room, sort of like Skype, but they use a different program. But I had to go into that meeting room, and I looked. One of the requirements is they said be in character, so I dressed up, put on a shirt, tie, and of course a coat. They couldn't see my pants, so maybe I wasn't wearing any pants. No, I don't know. But I had to be in character, I had to be in character and role play, and that was the interview. Have you ever experienced one of those through, you're sitting in front of your camera there and doing the interview through that?
Never without pants.
Never without pants. It's like that character that comes out on that commercial where he's applying for loans and he's in his underwear. But have you ever experienced one like that through camera?
As many times I've had Skype meetings and Skype with friends and Skype with academic and stuff.
Right.
I've never actually had a Skype interview.
A Skype interview. Yeah, well, I've never had, and it was interesting. And it was, the good thing is that a lot of people aren't used to being in front of camera, but I guess this helps because I sort of handle it naturally. It's like I wasn't afraid to do that, and that's one of the things is, look, you have this I guess this ability to be able to be in front of camera or talk to people and not be embarrassed, not be afraid.
That and the lack of stress from not having to wear a pair of pants helps.
No, actually I was, but who would have known? Nobody. Who would have known? Nobody. That's too much information, right? Or let's put it TMI. So let's talk about leadership. Look at some of the questions that they ask. People can become more successful through the right motivation. The great figures in history always looked at least 5 or 10 years into the future. I have a strong set of personal goals. The majority of people are already inspired to do their best work. What is good for the organization is the concern of supervisors and not me. So, how would you answer? Or I really have a strong set of personal goals. So these are the type of questions that are being asked out there, and I don't think a lot of instructors, or there's not a course where they're teaching you this. I guess at the very most they teach you about, okay, you're going to be asked these interview questions. Make sure you dress well. Make sure your phone is off. Make sure that you arrive on time or research the company. But how about these new things that are coming up?
Yeah, see, leadership skills are really a major point to actually have. Even if you're not going for, say, a supervisor position or a management position, it puts you in a better aspect by supervisors and hiring managers that, well, he's got room to grow.
Right.
He's got this ability. We could possibly see him in a leadership role later on.
Right. And also, one of the things that I tell my students is, of course, they're going to do a social media check. Okay, so be careful, and I've talked about this before in other shows. Careful what you post on Facebook, Twitter, whatever is out there,
Avoid ranting at all costs.
Yeah, in the middle of the night.
Yeah, and don't be doing those drunk tweets or anything
right.
like that.
So they'll be checking on that, and in addition, background check. And I heard that, hopefully you're going to have a job or a career soon, and now you're going through those checks, correct?
Yeah, they started calling references that I put on my application. I was actually getting calls from my references, like, I just got a call from so-and-so. They were checking on you.
But they're also doing a background check, making sure you're okay.
They're going to be doing legal background checks. They're going to be a lot of them are doing financial background checks,
credit
reports.
Credit checks, yes.
Because they want to know if they could trust you with their money.
Right, and one of the things is that if you're too much in debt and you don't know how to handle your personal finances, that creates temptation to steal, temptation to lie, temptation to commit fraud.
Exactly.
It's okay to be in debt, but can you handle it? Mm-hmm. The thing is you're in debt, but you can't handle it and you were just irresponsible. Now, there's other situations where it's acceptable because, maybe you were laid off, there was an illness that set you behind, divorce, all of those things. But if you can explain that, that's good. But if you can't, because that could also signal some sort of addictions. Such as gambling addictions, such as drug addictions,
alcoholism,
sexual addictions, whatever, because all of that requires money. And So did you go through any also drug checks or anything like that?
Drug checks come with almost every job.
Okay.
I mean, you're gonna go and they're gonna tell you you're gonna need to take this little cup and walk into that room.
And have they ever taken a sample of your hair or anything
You know
like
what?
that?
No, but I've known people that they have taken hair samples before.
Right.
Because hair samples, they actually, if you think taking a certain drug stays in your system so long, no, because it stays longer
think,
in your hair.
Yeah, I think that's why they do the hair samples, is because certain illegal substances can be traced in the hair for a longer period of time.
See, and if you have long hair like me, they can trace back anything you've done for years.
Right. So those are some of the things that I think a lot of college students aren't aware. And in addition, if you're getting an entry-level job out of college, such as with your associate's degree or your bachelor's degree, like I said, just having a degree is not going to be enough. But one of the things that there is a cutoff with a lot of these companies is GPA.
Yep.
And at least most companies are looking at 3.25 or above. Mm-hmm. And if students think that grades do not matter,
They matter.
It will matter. It will matter, because I've seen so many students, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, with a college degree and can't find a job. Look at your process. How long has it taken you? And hopefully, by the next show, maybe you won't have time anymore because you'll be
Oh, you know,
fully
I'll make
employed.
time.
But how long has it taken?
Yeah, it's been quite a while.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
looking for a full-time job is a full-time
right,
job.
and on the average, you got to give yourself at least 3 to 4 months to find that job and to get started on your career. Well, thank you for tuning in on this episode of Making Sense, and I hope we gave you some guidance on what to expect on your next job search. We'll see you next time. Have a great day.